Let's begin talking about the wisdom heart. Our purpose is to be able to understand what it means to attune to the wisdom heart. What is it? It is that state of consciousness within you. It is that pure spirit within you. But as the wisdom heart, that pure spirit seeks to express itself through you and as you, as your very life. So let's follow this story by going back to before the beginning of time and space. The wisdom heart was. Consciousness itself existed in unformed and pristine being. As the scientists say, there was something, can't even call it something though, before time and space emerged. What was that? In the ancient text, the Rig Veda, the oldest spiritual text known to humanity, it says there was neither non-existence nor existence then. There was neither the realm of space nor the sky which is beyond. There was neither death nor immortality then. There was no distinguishing sign of night or day. What was it then? What was the nature of the spirit? What was the form of the wisdom heart? Well, that one breathed windless by its own impulse. Other than that, there was nothing beyond. Interestingly, however, notice, desire came upon that one in the beginning, and that was the first seed of mind. We can conceive of that seed as the source itself of the Big Bang, the source of time and space. What was this desire? The desire to unfold it, the spirit to unfold and to reveal and to revel in its own infinite potential, to create forms through which it could reveal, revel, and delight in its own being. Remember this, that which was before the beginning is present now. Right now, as you hear these words, as you breathe, that which was before the beginning, the unformed consciousness, the radiant spirit, the wisdom heart itself is present now. This is what all sages, mystics have discovered. They've revealed that the spirit itself is dancing, playing, revealing and reveling in the form of your own very existence. But let's trace the journey from that before the beginning time to this moment of your life, to this moment of our conversation about the wisdom heart and what it can become. Let's go back to 13.7 billion years ago, give or take a week or two, when the Big Bang, it is said, occurred, when time and space emerged and consciousness, the spirit itself, began to discover its own potential by creating forms, and through those forms to reveal its own possibilities. About 4.5 billion years ago, in this particular sector of time and space, lest we get a little provincial, the solar system emerged, and 4 million years ago, roughly, consciousness discovered itself in the form of this beautiful Earth, through which nervous systems began to develop 3 million years ago, the reptilian nervous system, which still exists in the body-mind that you at this very moment inhabit. Yes, there was a progression, a development of nervous systems, and each one developing new and more complex capacities for self-awareness until we've arrived at this particular state, which they at least have discovered skeletons revealed 3.5 million years ago, this state of the human nervous system. A wonderful development in the evolution of consciousness, because through this human nervous system, awareness can be aware of itself. Awareness is aware in the animal, in the reptile, but it is not aware that it is aware. This development of self-reflective consciousness arises with the manifestation of this human nervous system. And with the development of this human nervous system, the possibility of contemplative development, contemplative practice arises. 5,000 years ago, we have records, images of yogis sitting in meditation, turning consciousness upon itself to relate to the powers that be, all these forms around it, with awareness, to turn consciousness upon itself and to balance that consciousness. Why? So that the yogi can, in meditation you can, commune directly with that which is ever present, the spirit itself, the unformed existence. The creative impulse that was alive before the beginning is alive now, and ever still, right now, it is seeking expression. It is seeking to reveal new possibilities through and as your life. Well, we think of yoga as a very old tradition, but we can see for billions of years the spirit has been evolving. About 2,000 years ago, for several thousand years, the yogis in India began codifying, systematizing, and developing methodologies whereby consciousness could not only be aware of itself, but could balance that awareness and thus align intentionally, align consciously with the creative impulse of the wisdom heart, of the spirit itself. In 200 AD, many of these methods were documented by the sage Patanjali in what is known as the Yoga Sutras, really a user manual for the for using the human nervous system as a vehicle for communing with the pure existence, consciousness itself. So we're tracing this journey from before the beginning, through the development of the human nervous system, through the codification of mystical practices in the Indic Peninsula. And we want to bring it through to this very moment in time, and that brings us to the 1850s in New England. The Transcendentalists, Emerson, Thoreau, and such, began to read translations of Patanjali's, of the Yoga Sutras, of the Bhagavad Gita, and so the philosophical revelations of the mystics of the East, of the yogis, began to inform and be infused into the philosophical musings and the spiritual declarations of people and philosophers in the United States. During the same period of time, there was a great sage, a yogi we have no photographs of, known as Babaji. Babaji is both a sage and a symbol. A sage, yes, a yogi who fully awakened to the beauty and the grace of the Holy Spirit, the cosmic spirit. And at the same time, Babaji is a symbol of that possibility that dwells and is yours. He had a disciple named Lahari Mahasaya. Lahari Mahasaya was a householder, not a cave yogi, not a renunciate, not someone who had left the world, but someone who lived, worked, had a family. And this was a beautiful movement of the sacred tradition from what had been, in a sense, a renunciate practice into a fully engaged life that was also fully awakened. He was the founder of this Kriya lineage that we are a part of. One of his disciples was Sri Yukteswar, on the left there, also a householder, who had a disciple named Swami Yogananda. He taught Yogananda and told him to go to the West, go and bring not only the philosophy, but bring the methodology, bring the techniques of consciousness transformation to the West. And Yogananda, in the early part of the 20th century, came to the United States and gave a series of lectures, ultimately settling in California and in Encinitas, where he established the Self-Realization Fellowship for teaching the methods of Kriya Yoga in the West. One of his disciples was a young American named Shelley Trimmer. This is an image of Shelley as an older gentleman. Shelley was born in a Pennsylvania family. He was born into a family of mystics and occultists, and from early in his life practiced many methods for consciousness transformation, but he was seeking a systematic method, and thus he went to California and trained with Yogananda, who told him to, after his transmission of the lineage, to leave. And Shelley went to the north woods of Minnesota, essentially living a reclusive life. But a young American named Melvin Higgins got wind of this yogi and went to train and to study and to practice with him, and the transmission of the mystical methods of Kriya Yoga firmly implanted in this Western soil. Kriyananda established the Temple of Kriya Yoga in Chicago, Illinois. And here's an image of Davy from the 70s, meditating in the apartment that we shared while we were studying intensively with Goswami Kriyananda at the Temple of Kriya Yoga. Many of us were hippies in those days in our studies, and in the early 80s, Davy traveled with Kriyananda to visit Shelley in Florida with a small group of disciples. And here's an image of the living lineage. We moved to California, in fact to Encinitas. Kriyananda visited and taught at our yoga center. Here he is performing a ritual with our young then son, Aaron. And here's an image of the family, Kriyananda, in the post-ritual. We conducted retreats on Maui, continuing the journey of the spirit. Here's one from Kauai. And the intimate communion of disciple and guru, which represents the communion within you and of your consciousness with the wisdom heart. Yes, the song of the wisdom heart continues to this day, singing through each of us. In the Bhagavad Gita, the great text of the ancient yogis, that consciousness that has been journeying from before the beginning, through the Big Bang, through the evolution of the human nervous system, through the development of Kriya Yoga, through the establishment of the wisdom heart community, to this very conversation that we're having right now. In the Gita, that consciousness says, "Show love to me and bear me in mind. Attune to me, with me intertwine. I promise you, you will be illumined in me, because you are my own destiny." What a beautiful revelation of method. Yes, attunement is the key. Turn your consciousness back upon itself. Attune to and intertwine with the primordial spirit that is your essence. Your own awareness will be illumined through that communication, through that communion. And then the beautiful mystery and magic is that your life, you, this very moment, in fact, is the unfolding of the spirit. Your life is the destiny of that spirit which began its journey through time and space so many billions of years ago. But that spirit is here right now as you listen to these voices. The journey from the Big Bang to this moment is a horizontal journey through time and space, but there is also a vertical dimension, a vertical journey. And this is the journey that all of the yogis, the sages, and the mystics have always attuned to. It's the journey of the return to the wisdom heart, to commune with the unformed consciousness, and then to fulfill your destiny as spirit, which is to live that awakened state here and now. That is what we're seeking to do individually in our spiritual practice, and that is what we are seeking to do collectively as the wisdom heart, to form a community through which the revelation of that radiant consciousness can be supported, celebrated, and experienced.